Compton Tuesday Thoughts here for Soccer's Morning Show. Soccer Down here. John here, you there. Busy show this morning, and it is guest aplenty. Kevin Egan, who is probably chauffeuring Kevin Patrick someplace. He'll be on at 9:30. We'll get Kevin's thoughts about the final two, the final four, best 11. It's been a while since Kevin's been with us, so we're gonna track him down. I think the last time he was with us, he was shuttling Kevin Patrick in Montreal, Quebec, after an episode of the Monday night program. So hopefully both hands on the wheel, safe environs, and all that kind of stuff. Kevin Patrick being chauffeured by Kevin Egan. Kevin Egan joining us at 9:30 to discuss stuff. 10 o'clock, Glenn Davis. And we'll get Glenn's thoughts on the Western Conference Final. We'll get thoughts on what's going on in Major League Soccer. Copa America, probably for both of them as well. Great stuff with Copa America. Yes, that is absolutely true, Ricky. And thank you for reminding me that USATL, because remember, we are reissuing the Atlanta is American Soccer scarf for the holiday season to help out our friends at the Marshall Islands. Once again, 25 plus 5, unless the Abstermobile wants to come and drop stuff off. So get in touch with us if you missed it the first time, or if you want to pick up something for somebody in the holiday season. You can get the reissuing of the Atlanta is American Soccer scarf right here, right? Yeah, that's where you can do it. Yes, exactly. I want to go now. Exactly, Michael. So that's where we are. So Glenn Davis, 10 o'clock, Kevin Egan, Kevin Patrick at 9:30, and we got a lot of news to talk about. Copa America is here. We know who's going where, doing what, and that noise that you heard when the announcement came about the matchup at Mercedes-Benz, the first one on the 20th, I don't think Jason has calmed down from the emotional high of that. We'll go through all the matchups and let you know where stuff is, where stuff's going to be, all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, Atlanta gets two matches, one on the 20th and the 27th, but we'll go over it all as we go along here in the show. And so we'll go over Copa America and all the other things. That's the official term. So opening kickoff, brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. If I can find it really quickly, there we go. There's your QR code for those of you watching on Twitch and on the YouTubes and on the 280-character app. So right there. Thanks to our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com, because you can use the code SoccerDownHere15. You get 15% off your purchase. They, in turn, take 10%, reinvest it into youth games, youth initiatives that they have earmarked. Very, very cool stuff from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. Yeah, I wonder what Charlotte's bid book was. Ricky says Charlotte's bid book must have been very interesting to get a semi and a third. And you know, maybe they weren't as what's the word I'm looking for? They weren't as busy at B of A that other folks might have been. So yeah, it was very interesting. We'll see what's going on there. But like I said, we got plenty of news this morning. But we'll start off opening kickoff with Manchester United. I don't know if you saw this, but Manchester United explained why 4 journalists were banned from an Erik ten Hag presser earlier today. Sky's number one dog, chief reporter Kaveh Solakal, not allowed in this morning. Manchester Evening News' Samuel Luckhurst, The Mirror's David McDonnell, and Rob Dawson of the 4-letter were all reported to have been blocked from attending the Erik ten Hag press conference. A statement from Manchester United reads, quote, "We are taking action against a number of news organizations today, not for publishing stories we don't like, but for doing so without contacting us first and give us the opportunity to comment, challenge, or contextualize," end quote. From our friends at Talk Sport, it's unclear if the ban is just for Manchester United's press conference on Tuesday or if it's going to be extended into the future. Stories the club are referring to were to reports that were published by a number of outlets claiming Ten Hag had lost more than 50% of the Old Trafford dressing room. Claims range from player complaints over Ten Hag's style of play to being trained too hard and even questioning his man management. 7th in the Prem after the 1-0 defeat to Newcastle on Saturday. They've scored just 16 league goals all season and have 6 losses. Remember, for Manchester United, it's either one or the other. It's either a win or a loss. They have not drawn at all in the Premier League this year. United also currently at the bottom of their Champions League group heading into the final round of games. Need to beat Bayern and hope Copenhagen and Galatasaray draw. Despite an underwhelming performance against Newcastle Saturday, Ten Hag did not criticize his team in comments to the media. 81 matches, 51 wins, 10 draws, 22 losses. Quote, "We had a tough first half. We said at halftime we were pleased to be at 0-0 and have to stay in the game," he told TNT. British TNT, used to be BT Sports. "We had a good comeback in the last part of the game. That's the fight we have to show." And they face Chelsea Wednesday night at Old Trafford at 8:15. Hutch, "Please pre-clear your critiques with us lest we be forced to do similar in the future." Basically. I mean, the way that I operate, and like I said, I'm 107 years old. I mean, I'm going to do a story and I'm going to get my information. I will ask the other half of this equation if they want to comment on it. That, like I said, that's just how I'm wired. But basically, Manchester United's like, bruh, you didn't come to us for any kind of contextualization without contacting us first to give us the opportunity to comment, challenge, or contextualize. I mean, as journalistic due diligence, I would ask for a quote from the other side if I'm going to do a story like this. But I mean, so Manchester United basically, to Hutch's point, you're going to write that, then we're going to stick our tongue out at you. But like I said, I would call up Manchester United and go, okay, I need a comment just to have it in the piece for equal representation. Like I said, that's how I'm wired. But, and we don't know to what extent Sky or the 4-letter or the Manchester Evening News or the Mirror reached out to the club. Club is just saying that they're mad that you didn't ask us. Well, asking them first, I'm hoping they meant asking them first before you publish the piece and not first, hey, we hear these things. What do you have to say about it? And then you write your story. So there's a bit of a misplaced modifier here, being the son of a mother, the son of an English major. So, so 4 reporters were blocked out of the Manchester United press conference this morning. And don't think for a second that those 4 aren't going to sit there and make a meal out of it. That they're going to sit there and they're going to take that and they're going to be on live. I guarantee you. I've yet to see it, but I can guarantee you that Kaveh Solokal is going to be live on every possible program Sky Sports has going forward today. And he probably already has. I've yet to look at Sky Sports on the 280 character app, but I'm fairly certain that Kaveh Solokal has probably been on every Sky Sports program ever since he got kicked out. Probably did a live shot from just outside Manchester United's training ground to sit there and say, I'm not inside, and explain why. So, guarantee you that Rob Dawson, Manchester Evening News, The Mirror, and Kaveh Solokal did. All 4 of them probably were doing live shots or doing hits or writing stories or doing 280 character app assessments of the situation. But, that was interesting this morning at the Manchester United training facility. But like I said, I would ask for a quote. So, like I said, that's just me. Yes, Kefsi, I am the son of a mother. So, so that's your opening kickoff. I just thought it was an interesting thing today. And yes, Chris Wilder has officially been brought back since we're in the Premier League. Chris Wilder officially brought back to Sheffield United because the owner thinks that he can be the guy to keep them up. Not have anything to do with player investment or scoring goals or making sure that they don't give up any goals, that kind of stuff. But ownership thinks that Chris Wilder can keep them afloat in the Premier League. So they are already to the point of being pragmatic and trying to just get points where you can, try to win at home, and try to draw on the road. So if you want to watch a Sheffield United match going forward this season, I would probably watch the home matches at Bramall Lane because the away games may not be the prettiest things on the board. Rich Ransom has just fired Ten Hag already. Might be they got to figure out who that would want the gig. If you fire Erik ten Hag, then who you getting? And you're not getting Zinedine Zidane. I hate to break it to you, but and it might be, Rich, that you bring up the point when Sir Jim Ratcliffe finally does take over, and for the 30th week in a row, they're saying it's going to happen next week. God, I feel like this is like the wimpy approach to ownership. I will gladly own it Tuesday for ownership today. I was just like, yeah, it's coming. Yeah, it's coming. Yeah, we guarantee you it's coming. Yeah, all right, we're ready. We mean it. We're ready. But yeah, the latest word is that it's next week. Much like the word last week was that it's going to be this week. So we'll see what's going on there. Then maybe does Sir Jim Ratcliffe do something, because we know that they were wondering about players that he has not been pleased about with their output. Does he say the same about Ten Hag? So when Ratcliffe takes over football ops, is that the end of Ten Hag? So we'll see, because then if you fire him now and you don't have Ratcliffe in place, Ratcliffe might sit there and go, no. And yeah, so that's the kind of mess that you're looking at Manchester United. And yeah, I mean, Rich, just get some assistant and deal with the rebuilds, just dragging the team down. With what you're seeing from Manchester United, they are 3 points out of fifth. They are 5 points out of European football, out of Champions League. And that's the thing. 14 matches, 8 wins, 6 losses. They're at 24 points. I mean, they're only 5 points out of European football. And if you think you're going to catch Arsenal, Liverpool, and Manchester City, I think you're mistaken anyway. So what you're probably shooting for is that fourth place spot, and you're only 5 points out of fourth. With all of this stuff going on, you're 5 points out of fourth. All of this stuff, you're 5 points out of fourth. So we'll see what happens whenever that week occurs when Sir Jim Ratcliffe takes over and gets his 25%. Does he keep Ten Hag? Are there changes in the back room, with assistants and things? What does it look like when Sir Jim Ratcliffe takes over? Of course, that's the question we've been asking as far back as I can remember. So we'll see what happens there. Let's get into Copa America a little bit. Or actually, we'll get into Copa America because there's stuff to get into this morning and other places. The FA has decided to charge Manchester City and not Erling Haaland. So that was interesting, to say the very least. So Erling Haaland has been left away from getting the perpetual finger wag. And so Manchester City, the part of the club has been charged. Here's the official terminology. Paul McGuinness at The Guardian. Charged by the FA following the confrontation with Simon Hooper. Charged with failure to control. And I love how sometimes you get this undersell with the wording of an article. Here's how Paul McGuinness started the second paragraph. The Premier League champions have been charged with failing to control their players after a set-to followed Hooper's decision not to allow City a possible important advantage in the final minutes of play. It was a set-to. No, it was a damn argument. It's just, the softening of the blow here. It was a set-to. No. You had dudes that were about ready to just snap. Yeah, you had dudes that were snapping. It was a set-to. That's the softening of something like that. Erling Haaland will not be subject to personal charges for his behavior, nor for a tweet sent immediately after the match. And we went into it yesterday with Bart on Reffing Down here, where the call came. Grealish was clear. Haaland puts a pass over the top. Grealish was onside, but then all of a sudden, Hooper blows his whistle and everybody goes nuts. City charged by the FA under Rule E20.1, which mandates that a club must ensure its players do not, quote, behave in a way which is improper, offensive, violent, threatening, abusive, indecent, insulting, or provocative, end quote. You could use E20.1 pretty much every week if you wanted to. The club has until Thursday to appeal the charge. Holland escaped censure under the FA's regulations around media use, which allow players to use social media after a game to criticize match officials' performance or competence only when a criticism implies bias or attacks the official's integrity can charges be considered. WTF was adjudged to fall outside those criteria. So WTF does not account for performance or competence. It could be, I guess it could be a general interrogative. Hutch, that was Noonian. I mean, if WTF, so WTF, I guess, could be construed as a general interrogative. It's just a question. I'm not poking any kind of pointed question or thought pattern toward an official in general, but if I'm just questioning the overall, if it's an overarching WTF, and I'm not specifically saying that it's about an individual, it's just a generic, exceedingly generic WTF after a match where you lose your ish and are yelling at an official, since you don't specifically say, hey, ref, WTF, since it was just a generic WTF, Erling Haaland, I guess, doesn't get censured by the FA. I guess that's how this works. So if you had included somebody's name and gone WTF, you could have gotten censured. But since you just did the WTF as a general interrogative, you're just kind of like, ah. Abby's wondering about the explicit ratings that we have on the show now. Yesterday, Abby came on and ass is being used today. It's WTF, what's happening? Specifically, we're talking about Erling Haaland and his social media after yelling at Simon Hooper. Manchester City gets a charge. Erling Haaland escapes censure. So, because of his exceedingly generic 3-letter comment that had nothing to do with anything, I guess, apparently, perhaps, maybe, I don't know. So, who knows? But because it was a general WTF and did not go after an individual specifically about their performance or competence, Erling Haaland escaped any kind of censure from the FA. News comes at a time, McInnes's article continues, news comes at a time of increased concern over the treatment of referees in the men's game from Premier League to grassroots. IFAB said it intended to expand the use of sin bins for players showing dissent against officials, stressed the need for stricter application of laws, the laws of the game. February, City fined £75,000 by an independent panel for failing to control during the win over Arsenal that same month. So, yes. So now that's what we were doing. It's Abby. We were discussing what was going on with Erling Haaland and the outburst that he had on social media, where I think we are now learning. I think we're now learning what we can and can't do. If you're a player in the Premier League and you just scream to the heavens exceedingly generically and don't mention any other individual, you're okay. You can be mad and do something incredibly generic, like Erling Haaland did. Since we cannot intimate by his 3-letter outburst what he was specifically referring to, I feel like, man, I feel like this is like LA Law or something, or Law and Order. But since we cannot intimate specifically what he was referring to, it's just like, okay, he's just venting. He's venting. He's venting his spleen. So there you go. That's all he was doing. That's it. Yeah, nothing major. Just, just what it was. That's all. That's all. Oh boy. All right, I get it. All right, before Kevin Egan joins us in 5 minutes, we'll start Copa America. We'll probably drift into Copa America with Kev and with Glenn Davis and take it over again, once again at 10:30. Copa America yesterday, a big announcement, and 14 host cities and matches with the match schedule. East Rutherford, the Meadowlands, B of A, Atlanta, Exploria, Hard Rock, Jerry World, NRG in Houston, Q2 in Austin, the Snake in Glendale at State Farm, SoFi, Allegiant, Levi's in Santa Clara, Children's Mercy Park, and the Jiha at Arrowhead. So all of those are going to be seeing places, and we have the grid. Atlanta gets the first one. Atlanta, as the continent vibrates, Atlanta gets the first match. They are in Group C, and once again, we'll know the draw coming up in short order. But once again, group stage June 20 to July 2, quarterfinals July 4th. Quarterfinals July 4th. Semifinals 9 and 10, third place 13th, and the final is on the 14th. So, but yeah, so 2 matches at Mercedes-Benz, and it's going to be if there. I don't know. I have no idea. What the tickets are for, but you've got Argentina playing somebody else in Group A. Argentina is going to get that first match at Mercedes-Benz. They're going to play the 4th team in Group A. So that'll be your first match, and it is going to be Charlotte and Hard Rock. So we'll see what happens there. Meadowlands, B of A, all that. So we'll get into it coming up in short order. But once again, Atlanta gets a U.S. match on 27th, and we get the Argentina match against A4 on the 20th to kick off the tournament. I don't know. That's a good question, Kepsy. I don't know if you might have to do your own procurement to try to determine what's going on. But they might be doing something when the tickets themselves. I don't know if it's a Mercedes-Benz email. Since it's not an Atlanta United thing, it might have to be something from Mercedes-Benz. Or the folks at CONMEBOL have been more than happy to sit there and say, you know what, you can sign up for our newsletter. And you go to copaamerica.com and you can sign up for it that way. So you've got a couple different ways to keep an eye on stuff. I'm just saying, get in the queue and get in the queue early. Get in the queue early for Copa America because it just sounds absolutely crazy. And get in line now. I mean, this is going to be like worse than Krzyzewskiville in Duke's in Duke's heyday, where you've got all of the students who are hanging out and they are they're there like days before. So this literally is probably one of the biggest, longest queues you might have to hang out with. 32 matches, 16 teams, 10 from CONMEBOL, 6 from CONCACAF. Group schedule for the U.S., AT&T, Mercedes-Benz, and Jiha. Argentina, June 20, Mercedes-Benz. Goodness gracious, great balls of fire. That's going to be epic. So get in line now, get your tickets now, and we'll find out what in the heck is going on. But no, it's going to be fun stuff. And really looking forward to it about 9 times over. But the fact that Argentina is starting at Mercedes-Benz, you get Argentina and you get the United States within a week's time at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Safe to say that the whole thing will be open, that the whole stadium will be open, all 71,000 folks. And imagine the party outside, what it's going to be for anyone and everyone going on that is interested in either Argentina or the United States. Out of Chicago, the Chicago Fire, and this is literally 15 minutes ago. So let me find my sounder, and then we can continue to proceed through the morning show here. Chicago Fire have named their head coach. It's Frank Klopas. Finished 23 as the interim. Previously was manager of the Fire from 2011 to 2013. The Fire have not made the playoffs in the last 6 years, just once in the last 14 seasons. So they're sticking with Frank Klopas. Frank Klopas remains as head coach, according to sources who are talking to Tommy Scoops. Klopas finished the year, remember, after Ezra Hendrickson was fired in May. Took a turn in charge of CF Montreal through 2015, returned to the Fire as an assistant in 2020. Remember, Klopas finished his career with Chicago in 1999. So Frank Klopas, 49, 43, and 29 regular season with the Chicago Fire as head coach. Third highest winning percentage in club history. They'd already re-signed sporting director Georg Heitz, technical director Sebastian Pelzer this offseason. Both were out of contract, and they were re-signed. And they've also reportedly, allegedly, possibly, probably signed a deal involving Tom Barlow. But we won't know that until we end up with we won't know that one until we actually hit the deadline, and we are allowed to say things publicly when it comes to actual deals, but we can't quite say that yet. So we have to kind of sit here and intimate and be hush-hush and all of that. Okay, so it's been a while. Last time this guy was on the show, it was safe driving. It was safe driving. As this guy was shuttling Kevin Patrick to the airport. And it's been far too long since this gentleman has been on the show. And so that means that he has to be greeted appropriately before we bring him out of the green room. So why don't we just go flashback?
Now Yamil Assad back to Almiron. Still Almiron. 2-0 Atlanta United. It's another peak from the Paraguayan.
And so we bring in Kevin Egan.
Johnny, I love you. How are you, man?
Good to see you, my friend. I guess, I don't know. I before this morning, I would have guessed the proper greeting for you would have been yeet, but I don't think I could do that anymore.
No. We'll leave that to Jay. You know, I think for whatever reason, if Jason Longshore is watching this right now, I think that for whatever reason, every time I go on Soccer Down Here, I have some sort of a technical issue. And I find myself laughing about it, going, what am I doing? Look at this. This is my computer that won't allow, for whatever reason, it won't allow my camera and my audio work. So therefore, I'm calling off my phone. So I apologize. I apologize that this is Ragball Rovers right now, and I'm giving you a tour around my house. But I'm sorry about this technical issue on the computer.
Why? That's the beautiful part of live stuff, man, is we get to see behind the scenes. And because there are those of us who, we're just like, okay, whatever works is what it works, and here's what it looks like. And it's just like, okay, great, fine, cool. We get to see Kevin Egan's hacienda.
You know what? We'll do it in front of the Christmas tree and the stockings, will we?
There you go.
Make it a bit more festive, yeah.
There it is. That is absolutely true. So what is it like for you having to balance travel schedules for both you and Kevin Patrick during soccer season?
It's all good. I mean, it's a challenge, and it can be. I'll say I'm lucky to have the wife that I have. She's an absolute legend in terms of managing a lot around the house and the kids and everything that we have going on. I've got two little kids that are 4 and 2. And then the schedule itself works out quite nicely. I'm on Friday Night SmackDown now with WWE, and then Saturday or Sunday Major League Soccer, or Wednesday Major League Soccer. So a lot of the time I'm on the road, but it's manageable. And when you're home, you're still working because you're prepping for shows. But it's a labor of love, quite honestly. And it may not be the type of thing you can do forever because it's just so much time on the road. But for now, I'm really feeling very grateful and lucky.
Yep, and obviously, of course, Kev sees in this morning. There's a non-zero chance I crashed your computer because it's me and technology, brother. That's how this works.
Likewise.
So, we're down to the final two in Major League Soccer. Last time I heard, there's going to be a championship game this weekend. Did your bracket bust, and how early did it bust?
No, I've got the final.
You do?
Yeah. So I have the final, but I had a shocker in the first round. I picked New York Red Bulls over Cincinnati, and it was the moment. Like there were certain question marks over Cincinnati going into the playoffs, and also New York Red Bulls were just hitting form at the right time. And I just had this feeling that they'd get something in Cincinnati and maybe even win both games on penalties. And they nearly snuck the second game, would have forced the third. Cincinnati win on penalties. Matt Miazga scenario we all know about. But that was the only game I got right. Everything else has been spot on so far. I mean, you're right, you're looking these things. But I figured LAFC would get the business done in Seattle. I figured Houston would get to the conference final. And then on the other side, Columbus, I have winning the whole thing. I've had winning the whole thing even before the Atlanta series. I think Columbus are the best team in the league right now.
What is it about Columbus and Wilfred Nancy? There's just a great deal of freedom that he lets them do. He lets them be creative. While, there's an idea about how you want to attack things out there, there's that creativity that you see, not just from the front, but you got dudes at the back who want to crash the party too at any given moment.
Freedom, however, they all understand the responsibility of that freedom. And that's the key. When you watch Columbus play, for me, it's like they're so fine-tuned and they're so clear with what their roles are. The great example for me is Moreira. Every time Moreira ventures forward and finds these pockets of space, there's cover for him. You understand why Farsi works instead of Gressel right now, even though Gressel's impact the other day off the bench was remarkable. But you understand, given the way they play with Yeboah and Farsi on the flanks, how important they are. Jordan Morris has been Jordan Morris. Oh my God, Aiden Morris. Aiden Morris has been remarkable this season. And then there's always the fella called Darlington Nagbe, who, I was in a conversation with a bunch of guys after the game, and I said, at what point are we going to start talking about Darlington Nagbe as the greatest central midfielder MLS has ever seen? And I think we're at that point now. Darlington Nagbe wins on Saturday. He's picked up his 4th MLS Cup, 3 different clubs. He's taken that consistency from being a Mac Herman Trophy winner in college all the way through Major League Soccer. The knocks against him, unfortunately, in just given the day and age that we live in, is that he's not, powerful on social media. He's not a big voice. He doesn't jump to do the interviews post-game. So you're not hearing from this guy an awful lot. And in today's day and age, that seems to count for something. And the other knock might be the national team and his reluctancy to play for the national team at times. So if you take those away and you simply focus on his Major League Soccer career, we were lucky in Atlanta to see 2 years of Darlington Nagbe here. He has been so stupidly special. And his ability as a player to morph from the much more attack-minded player that was often played out wide under Caleb Porter at Portland to now this much deeper lying, experienced player that, on Saturday, he drew 9 fouls, John, at a time when they needed to slow the game down. He didn't foul once throughout the entire game. His passing obviously spot on, and I think he's brought Aiden Morris to the next level alongside him.
When you think about center mids, who else is a part of that discussion for best of all time that you include Nagbe in? Who else is a part of that pantheon for you?
Yeah, like you think, well, certainly in my time of covering the league, Ozzie Alonso, given the success that he had in Seattle, would be there. You go back to the early or much earlier years of Major League Soccer, and I think there's Peter Novak would be in the discussion. There's big names, but I don't know if there's anyone else. Kyle Beckerman, some people will make the argument for. However, he hasn't won what Darlington Nagbe's won, and he hasn't changed as many clubs as Darlington Nagbe's changed. And I'm a big fan of Darlington. As a fella, I don't know him very well. It's not like I'm friends with him and I'm making this case for him. Dax McCarty's career has been a storied one. Obviously, without that MLS Cup is a big thing for him, and I'm sure he'd love to try and capture that if he's going to play another year. I'm not sure. But Nagbe, John, what do you think? I mean, I think he's got to be right there.
And the thing that gets me is what you brought into the discussion is that he is this quiet force.
Yeah.
And he doesn't, he's not going to sit there and, be like Arn Anderson and toot his own horn. I'm not going to toot my own horn, but toot. But it's just, he goes about his business. And I think those folks are underappreciated just because they don't sit there and go on the 280 character app and sit there and go, hey, look at me and look at my post, all these kinds of things. And I think that we get lost in the idea of dudes just going out, grabbing the hard hat and the lunch pail, going out there and doing their job. And then by the end of the day, I think that I'll guarantee you this. A year or two after Darlington Nagbe finally retires, I think we finally get that discussion that we're talking about now and the appreciation for Darlington because he's not here and a part of things anymore.
But see, I disagree. Yeah, I disagree because we're in such a swipe right culture where we move on to the next thing so quickly, right? And with Darlington, at least he's there and he's visible right now. So we're having this discussion now. But when Darlington stops playing, I don't think he's going to become a TV analyst. I don't know if he's going to become a coach. Maybe he will be, but I don't think he's going to be shouting from the rooftops about what a great career he had.
No.
And, there's a lot of the former players that are discussed today are discussed because they're either media members or they're coaches. And I don't know if Darlington Nagbe's not part of that, if he's not part of that conversation or that realm, will we be bringing him up? We may in Atlanta. The folks in Portland and Columbus may, but outside of that, I wonder, he didn't become that national team icon. I don't know. I'm not so sure about that. Like you look at some of the other names.
So then is it upon us to continue to have this Darlington Nagbe discussion because we know he's not going to do it for himself?
Well, if it's of interest to everybody, I mean, I marvel at him, the way, so I'll add this to this context. I text Michael Parkhurst after the game, and I said, for you, is Darlington Nagbe the greatest central midfielder in league history? And he wrote back, yes. Simple. Like for him, and he's biased potentially because Darlington's a good friend and they played together and Parky won a championship alongside Nagbe. But I think we're witnessing league greatness in him today. I think Darlington Nagbe, and I've said this before, I said it during his peak year for me, his best year as a player for me was 2019, actually. I thought he was next level in 19. And I honestly felt watching him that he's the type of guy you could drop into any squad in the world. He's not going to lose the ball. He's not going to seem out of place, and he stayed in Major League Soccer throughout his career, and that needs to be recognized.
Here's the numbers. I went to our friends at SofaScore. And I got his numbers from the match on the weekend. 81 of 85 passing, 95%. 101 touches. One long ball, and he completed it. Dribble attempts, he was 1 for 2. 11 of 16 on ground duels, in an homage to our buddy Frank DeBoer. 1 for 1 in the aerial duel that he had. Fouled 9 times, to your point, 1 pick, 1 tackle, and 3 dribbles passed. That was what Darlington Nagbe did in 120 minutes in Hell is Real plus 30.
Yeah, and you can see like the images of Nagbe crying after the game and what it means to him, to be an Ohio boy that's bringing MLS Cup to Ohio this Saturday, and that passion was screaming through. So for anyone that thinks, he just leaves the game and he goes home and he's with his family. There's all these narratives from all of us that don't have a clue, who these people really are. And so I'm going to talk about Nagbe in a way that I feel he deserves to be talked about because he's for me is, you think best players ever in MLS for consistency, longevity. I think Landon's number 1. You don't win, 6 championships like Landon's won and have the career that he's had. And after that, if you want to go position by position, it's a good 11 to come up with someday. I know a fella called Jason Longshore, the historian, that would love something like this.
Godfather on this one.
Yeah, maybe you simply do it like you've got to have spent, like, let's say 7 or more years in the league.
Okay.
What's your best 11? And Nagbe's in the 11 for me.
Okay. Speaking of the 11, is that how many Christmas presents you have wrapped behind you, or has there been any wrapping yet?
Zero. I'm going to be Ireland bound for a bit this Christmas, which I can't wait for.
Okay. Let's go to the West. Kevin Egan hanging out with us for the first time in a long time. And by the way, if you want to make 9:30 Tuesday appointment, hanging out, it's yours, brother.
I'll leave the tree up all year. This will be my spot.
Well, in a way to blatantly promote, I don't believe you have one of these. Do you, sir?
I don't.
I don't. Yeah, I don't think you do. I can't remember if you had one of the Atlanta is American Soccer SDH scarves, which are being reissued for the holidays.
Okay. All right.
Because of, recent events and stuff. And we're helping out our buddies in the Marshall Islands with that scarf reissue, stage 1 of 2. Since you had the full grid, let's go west. Glenn Davis hanging out with us in 15 minutes. And Houston. Now, I've been raging for weeks. Why is Ben Olsen not getting the respect that he should be getting? He wasn't top 3 in Coach of the Year. I feel like because he's in Houston, he's in this black hole of media attention for whatever reason. Why is Ben Olsen not being talked about more?
Yeah, I'm with you. I think there's several really good coaching stories this year, and I think that's part of the issue in the lack of coverage for Ben. Look, Bradley Carnell, what he did was remarkable, and then laid an egg in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. That's why, for me, playoffs have to be considered in Coach of the Year voting. I mean, it's just so ridiculously stupid that you're going to not include the pressure cauldron that is the playoffs. We're going to see the best coaching when it comes to the high-pressure situations in every single sport. In every single aspect of the world, the higher the pressure, the better you perform, the more accolades you should receive. And for me, look, Oscar Pereira had a really good year as well. But for Pat Noonan, obviously, and Wilfried Nancy, obviously. Mm-hmm. Ben Olsen is a fascinating case study for me. He's the second longest tenured coach at a single club in a single reign in MLS history after the fella he faced in the conference semi-final in Peter Vermees. He spent 10 years at DC. You know, from being a boy, he was 32 when he joined the coaching staff. He goes away after the 2020 year when he was let go. He starts painting. He finds a room in his house and he turns it into a studio and he starts painting and really starts to think about life and his world and let painting be an expression. And he starts to realize this is what football should be like, yada, yada, yada. He takes up a management position within the NWSL. He gets lured back by Pat Onstead to Houston. And all of a sudden, like, he says he's not different as a coach. The only thing he says he's different with, that's different for him, is he's re-energized. He's found his passion again. And he said, I will always adjust to the players I have. And so the players he have are the Amin Bassis, the Coco Carrasquillas, the Hector Herreras, Artur. Like, these are ball-playing players that want to play. And he's found a tune out of these guys. Hector Herrera was woeful in the half season we saw last year. And he was protecting himself with the World Cup on the horizon, and he had a lingering hamstring injury and all that. And I think what you've seen from Ben Olsen is real man management this year. In how do we get the very best out of these guys? How do we take Coco Carrasquilla to another level? And he's become the man at Panama since Ben Olsen's really kind of taken him under his wing. Corey Baird is up around 15 goals I think in all competitions this season for a fella who was really a winger.
16 different goal scorers this year, man.
What's that? Sorry?
16 different goal scorers this year.
Yeah. Griffin Dorsey, the perfect example of a fella who you've gotten a major tune out of, who's now being shouted for the national team. I think it's been a remarkable success story, but there's also been others. I mean, for a lot of reasons, Pablo Mastroeni had a really good year with Real Salt Lake. There was a lot of adversity faced for Gonzalo Pineda, and I thought at times a really, really good year. It's been an interesting season, but ultimately I think we have the best two teams. I think harsh to say that on Cincinnati, but they didn't manage the end of that game well at all. Columbus, by far and away the better team, and Wilfried Nancy's proving that. I think outside of, we'll see on Saturday, because obviously Cherundolo's in that conversation. But outside of Tata, there's a lot of people saying that Wilfried Nancy's the best coach in Major League Soccer.
You mentioned LAFC, so let's go ahead and go here. I mean, it just seems like that LAFC is a different dog ever since they got out of the CONCACAF Champions League hemispheric extravaganza, and it's just like they're just different, and I can't put my finger on the why. It's like they want to be more defensive, and I mean that in almost pragmatic in a negative way. They want to bump you around. They want to foul. This is not your father's LAFC that we're used to seeing. It's not Showtime. It's more like grind it out and foul folks and try to draw you into things. What's going on here with this?
Well, your father's LAFC, do you mean like from 2 years ago?
Yeah. Yes, I absolutely do. Absolutely.
They're only around since 2018, John.
my older brother's LAFC.
I think it's the defensive side of the game for sure. And if I'm honest, I watch LAFC at times, and I don't really enjoy the way they play.
Exactly.
And I'm not saying I have to have a team that wants to possess all that. They're fun to watch, but they're fun to watch at times in like the way monster truck derby is fun to watch. They're kind of chaotic. You know, like it can seem chaotic when Buwanga's just tearing forward, or and Vela I thought was sensational over the weekend against Houston. I thought he had a really, really good performance in what could prove to be his final game at home. Honestly, we don't know yet. I think the defensive side of the game, Chiellini's influence huge. Murillo, Hollingshead continues to be one of the most underrated players in the league, and Chiqui Palacios as well have formed a really nice back four there. You know, you look at the amount of times that Crepeau has been called into action here in the playoffs, and his story has been remarkable since breaking his leg in MLS Cup. Yep. So I'd love, nearly for his sake, if he could be the man and win MLS Cup. But I just also think the Wilfried Nancy story, and we're storytellers, John. We work in the broadcast world. Like, I think stories, and I'm thinking of the amount of stories that we have. The Wilfried Nancy story of his coaching background is the dream for every single young coach coming through that might be listening to Soccer Down Here right now. Wilfried Nancy, go and look him up. Everything that he's done from the very bottom in the academy in Montreal, and before that to now leading the way, at Columbus Crew. And he will have suitors, believe me, from overseas and around Major League Soccer. Wilfried Nancy will be sought after.
How's the lactic acid in the arms there, bud, from holding your phone?
Fine. Yeah. All good.
Just check.
All good.
You got your coffee, and I don't want the lactic acid to be your best friend here. As we're talking. Kevin Egan hanging out with us, Glenn Davis hanging out with us at the top of the hour here on SDH. So then when you look at this matchup of LAFC and Crew, if you and I were in the booth like we always do, title over wide comes up. We make the announcement, hey, we're at the Death Star, Team A, Team B. Then game kicks off and you get that tombstone in the corner, keys to the match. What are your keys of success for LAFC to beat Crew and for Crew to beat LAFC?
Oh, wow. For the Columbus Crew team that has Cucho playing the way he's playing, I would think getting those runners of Matan and Rossi, those diagonal runs, I think you could really drag LAFC's back four out of shape. And Cucho's ability to drop deep and be that 9.5 nearly, or roam at times, could cause problems for not only Chiellini and Murillo, but also Ilie in front of them. And I'm intrigued to see what the dynamic will look like with the movement for Columbus, and if they can drag LAFC out of shape a little bit, because we all know Columbus are going to have probably close to 60% of the ball, you would think, at home, and with the way they play. And LAFC more than comfortable to play at times without the ball and really set themselves up to counter. On the flip side, the tactical side of things, I'm massively intrigued to see what the central midfield will look like, because Nagbe and Morris could, in theory, be outnumbered with the way Columbus play, but there might be some joy for LAFC on the flanks then going forward. And Buwanga, if he can get in behind, whether he switches sides at all, gets in behind Yeboah or Farsi, and then you're asking centre backs to get out of position a little bit. I'm just massively intrigued to see the first 15-20 minutes to see how this game plays out. But I still think Columbus are favourites.
Run at Chiellini all day long. Run him into the ground, so he's got to be out of there, and you don't get that veteran presence after, say, 60 minutes. You got to.
Yeah, but the issue is if LAFC remain really compact, they won't allow those situations happen. And I think like Ilie in front of Chiellini is just a huge piece. Murillo alongside him, obviously Hollingshead alongside him as well. I don't know if that situation is going to happen. Chiellini's around today. Is he 40 yet?
He's 72 years old.
If he's not, he's almost 40.
Yeah,
he's either 39 or 40, and he doesn't get exposed too often because he's so intelligent and he's speaking to the guys around him. So I'd be surprised if there's too many scenarios where Rossi, say, really gets a run at Chiellini, and if he can, that's a winning position for Columbus.
No doubt. Couple of random things before we go. So let's see. Born August 14th of 84, so he is 39.
Okay.
So he's 39 years old. Copa America coming to the States. The Benz is getting 2 games, including the kickoff with Argentina and some dude named Messi. What do you think about the Copa?
Yeah, it's exciting, isn't it? It's just so exciting. I think about being in the stands. I don't even think about broadcasting. When it comes to, I still sit on the couch and I watch a game as a fan. I've spoken to so many different broadcasters that can't because they're listening to the commentary or they're focused on the TV production. I'm a fan. when I sit down and watch a game, I turn into the ultimate fan, and I can't wait to hopefully be there with my son, if possible, and take it in with him, because I tell him stories. I've got messy books upstairs that I read him and stuff, and just to be there on that day would be magic.
And then is Kevin Patrick available?
Yes, he is. Just 1 second there now.
Okay.
That's John Nelson. John Nelson. Yeah. How are you, John?
KP. I have been, I'm allowed one wrestling question here on SDH every time that your chauffeur Kevin Egan drops by.
Okay, who agreed to that one wrestling question, by the way? I think you just made that up.
No. If it was me, KP and I would have our own segment, because that's how I roll. But the double return, and I give the production management team a whole lot of credit. Randy Orton comes out, you get the big pop. He comes out as the 5th member at War Games, and then you put up the copyright, and I give the production team full credit. Copyright comes up, and then you hear Living Color and CM Punk. What's it like to have these two big stars back in the fold there in Stamford, Connecticut?
It's well, they're not in Stamford. They're in every single city in America
under the corporate umbrella offices in Stamford, Connecticut,
and across the world right now. Like we've got shows in Australia in February, in Paris, in Lyon, France, in Saudi Arabia. Like their shows are all over the world these days, and it's like WWE is coming to you no matter where you are at this point. It's just such an international brand. CM Punk, I've never met. I'm looking forward to meeting him. He's on SmackDown this Friday. And Randy Orton is just the best. He's the absolute best as a fella. I'll say that. Behind the curtain, just such a brilliant, brilliant, fun guy. And JBL said it best years ago, that if you were to construct a WWE superstar from the ground up, if you were to just make one, it's Randy Orton. I mean, he look at him. He's so imposing. When you see him, he looks great. He's 6'3" or 4", he's 275 pounds. He's got a great face for a WWE superstar. He's excellent on the microphone. And when he hits that RKO, man, the roof blows off the building.
Especially on the GM, Nick Aldis. I mean, what was Randy thinking?
Yeah, that was fun. I'm not going to lie. Nick's had that coming for a while.
Where is SmackDown this Friday, KP?
It's in Providence, Rhode Island. And it's tribute to the troops this Friday, which should be lovely. Lots of great stories to tell.
And you got Rhode Island FC up there in Providence, too. You can probably get some shopping done for your buddy Parkhurst.
Yeah, there you go. We've got Rhode Island, and then we're on to Green Bay, Wisconsin next week.
Okay. So, KP, can you put Kevin Egan back on? Good.
Yes. He's here. Yep. Quick swipe. I'm back.
So, thanks for coming on a Tuesday. I know that coming off of busy weekends and things like that, getting ready for MLS Cup, it's been a fantastic season with you and Kendra and all the broadcast partners over there at Apple, and it's always great to see you working the WWE. And I'm still waiting for KP to take a bump somewhere.
Yeah, maybe someday. Who knows? I hope not. But thank you. By the way, I was on a plane recently, and I was something wrong with my leg, and I was like, "What is it? Like, there's an issue with my leg here, and I don't know what it is." And I got home, I'm like, "Oh, I've got a massive bruise on my thigh because Bailey was thrown over the desk in her big Doc Martin, and she came through me like Cristiano Ronaldo has never kicked a soccer ball as hard." And I was laughing, looking at the bruise, being like, "Oh yeah, that's from when I got taken out by a WWE superstar."
Did KP tell Bailey about getting taken out? Did you?
Oh, she'd just be bragging about it if I told her. So
okay, all right. Well, be good, my friend. And once again, 9:30 Tuesday is yours whenever you want it, and I will text you after the show so this can be added to your stacks.
Thank you, and Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays to everybody watching and listening to Soccer Down Here. Keep up the great work, John, and roll on 2024, guys.
You got it. Thanks a lot, my friend.
See ya. All the best.
Right, here goes Kevin, and here comes Jarrett. Morning, sir.
Good morning.
Wow. Glenn Davis joining us in a couple of minutes. And so we got to catch up with Kevin, and I know that this will surprise
Egan or Patrick?
both, actually.
Oh, wow. It's amazing. It's tough to pin both of them down at once.
Yeah, apparently KP was crashing at Kevin Egan's place, and
what are the odds?
I know, and so we got to catch up. Apparently, KP has a bruise on his thigh from being run into by Bailey on a table crash.
Here's the thing about that. Even like the women's division,
yeah,
they built.
Uh-huh.
They sturdy. If they hit you, you're gonna feel it.
Yeah,
so I 110% believe that.
Yes. Abby, when it comes to arrivals, I'm going to post on social media and on the 280 character app that since the box is now at Office HD, folks can order at will. So that way, it's the box is here. And so, folks, if you guys want to order the Atlanta is American Soccer City scarf reissue, like I said, this is stage 1 of 2 when it comes to helping out our friends of the Marshall Islands here in 23 and 24. And so I will post on social media that folks can get the scarf now since the box is here. Great to catch up with Kevin and get his thoughts on a bunch of different things. And Kevin, one of the talking points having to do with Darlington Nagbe, he says he's one of the best center mids in the history of the game. And
at the very least in the United States. And yeah, he needs to be at the very least, he needs to be in that we don't talk about him enough conversation globally. But I think the fact that he didn't play with the national team that much is what's going to be tough to get him to hop into people's minds. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like it doesn't take away from his talent, but people aren't going to think about it as much because he didn't play with the national team.
Yeah, and he's not going to, like I was talking with Kevin, he's not going to be like Arn Anderson, and I'm not going to toot my own horn, but toot. That's just not who Driver is. Darlington's not going to do that, so it's up to the rest of us to continue the conversation about him and what he's been able to accomplish over time. And so it's incumbent upon us to continue to have these kinds of discussions when it comes to Darlington Nagbe. Glenn Davis coming up in short order here, and we'll break everything down and look at what's going on with everything. Sorry here. Hang on just a second. Filibuster for a second. I have to discuss things with folks over at Georgia Public.
Well, I mean, because you're having to talk to people at Georgia Public because John has to spend the rest of the week on a desk getting ready for high school football. Yeah, because that's his fate in life is welcome to high school football. Welcome to the state championships this week.
Yeah, basically it is.
Hey, I gave you updates last week. It's fine.
You did.
Down in Creekside where like, it was a weird game too. It was like Creekside looked like they were going to get run off the field and then decided, what if we didn't let Sammy Brown run all over us?
Yes. And so having Sammy Brown as a part of all of these kinds of things.
Who picked up a leg injury and could not finish the game and could not put significant weight on that leg.
Yeah. All right. So let's see. Hang on. I need to start sending out. Apparently, I need to send out Zoom invites. Yeah. So hang on just a second. So Outlook. Nothing like talking about this kind of stuff.
I assume you went over the games from the weekend yesterday.
Kind of, sort of,
and the amount of bit spitting from Cincinnati.
Yeah, there was that. So there was a certain amount of bit spitting, but once again, where we're used to sitting there and going, okay, well, we're used to seeing that from the flip side of things. Then we end up with other stuff. We're used to seeing that from the other team and not other folks. So it was a bit of an inverted kind of a deal.
It was, but it also it crossed my mind last night watching Monday Night Football, which is still my favorite thing to do, just because I watched the Manning cast, because nothing in this life makes me laugh more than watching Peyton Manning suffer through bad football.
Yep.
Because he hates every minute of it. You can just see his face when there's bad quarterback play. He is just beside himself. And this might be his hell.
Yep.
If you told him he died and this is what hell is, he's locked in a room and he has to watch bad football and be on TV at the same time. That might be his hell.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's the Bengals did a good thing with Jake Browning, Washington legend. But all I could think about was a friend of mine who is a Steelers fan, constantly calling them the Bungles.
Yes.
And all I could think is like, Cincinnati FC has just entered the pantheon of Cincinnati sports.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Yes. They certainly have done that. So it'll be it will be interesting to see how things are going to lay out with that. But I mean, you're going, really? You're thinking, I was just stunned. We went over Darlington's stats, as a matter of fact, with Kevin when he came in, and just the what he did in a full 120 minutes, and having a guy like Darlington who is locked into Ohio as he is. You got to see emotion coming out of Darlington Nagbe when it came to what's going on with him, and you wonder how much time is going to be involved. Really, how much time does he have left? And to the point of Darlington and what we were talking about with Kevin, you wonder how many years he's got left. You really do. And having a moment like this,
No, I get it. And I think Darlington is to the point now, like he can give you a masterclass like he did Saturday. I don't think he gives them to you as consistently as he did, which is fine because it's part of getting older as a player. You're not going to be able to give those consistently, like week in, week out masterpieces. And he's going to, but the thing is, his floor is still really good.
Yes.
And at this point, like he probably needs someone in the midfield like an Aiden Morris. It's a perfect fit who can really help clean things up and just take some of the stress off Darlington. But his floor is so good. Even if he doesn't hit that ceiling as consistently, you're going to get a good performance out of him.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was really well done. And I don't know, man, it was, for me, a lot of it was Cincinnati spit the bit, and they got to look in the mirror after that one because, yeah, you can talk about the changes that Wilfred Nancy made, but Cincinnati wasn't able to lock it down. You went full loons. Never go full loons.
Yeah, no. That's. I meant to ask you about CRAM and what we saw from Christian Ramirez too.
Christian Ramirez is one of the more under discussed stories in 2023. For those in the Atlanta who have like dove into the Atlanta Aberdeen connection, I know there's not that many of them nowadays.
Yes,
because I know a lot of that died off. But if you were attached to both of them, you may remember Christian Ramirez went to Aberdeen when Stephen Glass took the job at Aberdeen.
Yep.
Ramirez was on his way to most likely a 20-goal season in Scotland in all competitions.
Yep.
Really, he was performing really well. Aberdeen made a managerial change, and he fell out of favor with the gentleman we now fondly refer to as Aberdeen Cream. Because you had an interim manager come in there and say, "I can fix this in 2 weeks," and then proceed to just do terribly. But Christian Ramirez kind of fell out of favor with new management. There was a lot of discussion on the tabloids in Scotland that he and his wife were like struggling being in Scotland at that time because he wasn't playing. He was vocal about his frustrations, and then there was tension between him and the fan base. He comes back to the United States. He goes over to Columbus. I would have loved to have had him here. But he goes to Columbus, and he's been a great mercenary for them off the bench because you have Cucho. Cucho is just an assassin. To be able to call on Christian Ramirez when you need him and for him to keep answering the bell is a story in MLS this year that I don't think gets nearly enough respect and discussion for a guy who was doing really well. It started to fall apart. He was kind of in a tough situation, and now he's back. And Jesus, Minnesota, why did? Oh my God! He was the guy they took with them to MLS, if you remember, in 2017.
Yep.
Superman was that guy that they took up from NASL.
Yeah.
And I'll never understand why he was not why he was sold and not kept, because Minnesota at the end of the season, look, Teemu Pukki, I don't know how much Teemu Pukki has left in the tank. How old is Teemu Pukki?
He's early 30s.
He is 33. If he gave me 2-3 more years, I'd be great with that. And It's great. They finally have someone who's actually converting as a striker, but they went without having strike help since Christian Ramirez.
Yes. One of the other things, Minnesota is apparently not getting the head of their operation until January. Their new director of player personnel, their new director of soccer ops. Forgot to mention to you this morning that Frank Klopas is the interim has been taken off of Frank Klopas, and he's going to be the
sure, why not?
Meet the new boss, same as the old boss.
Whatever. Until Chicago puts things together more than 2 months at a time.
Yeah.
I think we just kind of tap him on the head.
He's just nice job.
And to Tom's, looking back through the comments for the Nagbe move, I seem to recall pretty clear Jason was here regularly. Yes. He said Nagbe wanted to leave after 18. That was my understanding, is that he wanted to go home.
Yep.
And I don't know what it would have taken to keep him here. I don't know if because Darlington's an odd cat. Mm-hmm. He's a weird dude. Mm-hmm. He's an incredibly nice guy, but I think he is one of those that he cared more about going home than he did a lot of other things.
Yeah.
And he's got 2 rings outside of Ohio. Now he's got 1 in Ohio with Caleb Porter, who he had a very close relationship with, because Caleb Porter was his manager in college at Akron too. I think a lot of that was he wanted to go home.
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing. It's they wanted him to stay. They offered him a deal. He's like, I don't want long term.
Yeah, if you remember, in 19, he set out the beginning of training camp, and I think they were working through that at the time of hey, how are we feeling about the contract, that sort of thing. And I think he was also coming off an injury, but he missed at least 1 preseason game, and I think they were working through the injury, making sure that he was comfortable and making sure he was good here, because he was going to see how he was going to, I think he had 1 year left on the contract, and they were going to make sure of hey, let's work out something that's going to be getting you home, mm-hmm. but making sure that, we're not in a rock and a hard place. Because if you remember, Atlanta went into 2018 in a weird spot because Carlos Carmona got sold to Colo-Colo mm-hmm. right before the start of the season, when a lot of us had penciled Carmona in as being part of that team.
Yep.
And he needed to go home for family reasons. And the team did right by him, but you bring in Nagbe. And I think it's one of those that you're trying to make sure that everything's good, that he's comfortable. And I think he's comfortable in Ohio at this point. He's making really good money. He's at home where he's comfortable, and his family's with him. So good on him, man.
Yeah, absolutely. And so that's what that's what you're looking at with Nagbe and everybody. When you look at this matchup, and I don't know when you look at what happened from the weekend, since we haven't had the chance to catch up with you over what went down this weekend, what has stuck with you other on the left-hand side with the Western Conference with LA and Houston, considering that I didn't have LAFC just because of how we've seen them play recently. And I was like anybody else but LAFC. I was thinking Seattle. I was thinking Houston. My bracket's in the Toity anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So I was thinking Houston was going to make that run, and I figured that Columbus was going to be dangerous, but I did not have them in the final. If you had asked me at the beginning, I did not have them in the final.
Yeah, it was a really good performance from LAFC, and the fact that they get the goal right before halftime, it's great. I mean, you take that and you're able to take that momentum into the break. I mean, look at the numbers. I mean, possession wise, like Houston went on the road, and some of this is game state. At 71% possession, 85% pass accuracy, 10 shots, 5 on target. LA had 18, 6 on target.
Yep.
LA was fine just sitting off the ball. They didn't feel like they had to dominate it. And yeah, some of it's game state, but also, man, Houston was not afraid.
Yeah.
And either come home with your shield or on it. Houston came home on their shield, but really to go into LA to bring that fight is impressive because LA was really inconsistent this year.
Yeah.
But man, how often do we see it in the playoffs? It's just who can get hot at the right time.
Yeah.
And LAFC got the heat. They get through Vancouver, which was a tricky matchup. Vancouver was a wily team. They get through Seattle and then are able to get through Seattle on just like one opportunity in that match.
Yep.
Then get through a Houston team that had beaten them twice.
Mm-hmm.
You get into the playoffs and you see what the hell happens. And that's what LAFC did. And you got to give them credit for it. And it's one of those where you give them credit for it, but you also give credit to Houston for just coming out swinging and going down swinging.
Yeah. And I'm looking forward to seeing where, and 4-card. Morning, Harry, by the way. 4-card with your T-shirt of the day. You come home with your shield or on it. 4-card says that's the Jarrettism of the day.
I just ripped it off from 300, but yeah.
I mean, you ain't wrong, and that was why I kind of wanted to talk about LAFC and what we're seeing with Steve Cherundolo with Kevin, because it ain't the same. It ain't the same team that we saw from the CONCACAF Hemispheric Extravaganza.
It ain't the same team that happened after that. Like, man, that team early in the season, good. Post CONCACAF, bad. Leagues Cup, pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Post Leagues Cup, not so much.
Yeah, and I wonder. It's just they want to be negative at times, and I mean that in the negative sense. I mean, it's not at times LAFC can be completely and totally unwatchable. They can be completely and totally unwatchable when it comes to what you're staring at from LAFC.
But it's more pragmatic in the same sense that, like, it's more pragmatic. And you have to be pragmatic in the playoffs. We saw it with Tata in Atlanta in 18. It'd be hypocritical to sit here and say, well, they should go for it. Like, we watched Atlanta get more, not defensive, but careful.
Yeah.
In the 2018 playoffs. And they did what they needed to do to get that job done. But that being said, there's also a level for LAFC, I think, that they'll throw punches now, not physically, not literally. But I go back to the 2019 playoffs, where that 2019 team just rolled everybody until they got to the playoffs, and Seattle just did not give a damn who they were.
Yeah.
And Seattle knocked them around and knocked them out of the playoffs. I felt like that was a team that if they got punched in the mouth, they didn't have a plan. And they were so used to not getting punched in the mouth, they never really accounted for it. But this team doesn't mind getting punched in the face. They'll just punch right back.
Mm-hmm. And like I said, I don't know. I mean, we know how clinical LAFC can be. And especially at BMO, where they're like, you get that one goal, then the field tilts. The 32-52 take over, and it's just one of those things where it's like one turns into two, and you've got to stop that kind of momentum. But Columbus has been a traditionally very tough place to play when it comes to what Columbus has been able to do. And I think that all of the discipline, and I guess for lack of a better phrase, the disciplined freedom that we're staring at from Columbus can cause problems for for all of that can be, problems for LAFC. So, I mean, we'll see what we'll see what the idea is here for LAFC and how they can handle going on the road and facing all of these bodies that are working their way forward.
Yeah, it's gonna be a tough matchup, and it's gonna be a fight, and they're gonna beat the hell out of each other. I imagine in this game. I mean, they're gonna be scrapping.
Yeah,
because LAFC, they can. I think they can weather the storm, but can they get enough offensive production? We talked about like Darlington Nagbe having that moment and having those masterclass games, not as consistently as he did, but his floor is fine.
Yeah,
his floor is very good. Does Carlos Vela have even 60 minutes of like vintage Vela in him? Can he harness it for like 60 minutes? Even 30 if he comes off the bench, something weird.
Yeah, but that's the thing, which version of Vela are we getting here? Because, I mean, to me, Vela is a guy who seems to want to try and do things on cunning and guile instead of ability now. He's trying to draw fouls. He's trying to goad others into making and to doing fouls and those kinds of things. It's not the same Vela that we've seen take charge in Major League Soccer. So it's just odd. So, I mean, I don't know which Vela we get. And that's the thing for me. It's like, which Vela do we get? And that to me is another question. Which Vela do we get and how long do we get him, I guess, are the other questions here to complement Bouanga and everybody else. To figure out what's going on with LAFC.
Yeah, I mean, but that's the thing. Four card is like, I don't really want LAFC to go back to either, but they might. But also, Aiden Morris might just start wrecking shop in the middle of the field. And the MLS love for them will only be unbearable until the preseason next year when everybody remembers that Lionel Messi is in Miami. It's okay. Messi's going to take over all of that love affair. And we can break out the Toy Story meme of I don't want to play with you anymore.
Now this is the whole Toy Story meme of I don't want to play with you anymore. And that's the thing. I think that Columbus would be the one if Columbus wins. Let's just say Columbus wins. How much love do you think they would get versus how much love LAFC would get in the grand scheme of things for Major League Soccer?
I think LAFC gets a ton here. I think it's either way because LAFC gets a ton if they go back to back. Columbus is going to get a ton because everyone loves Wilfred Nancy, as they should. He's fantastic at his job, but I think that would factor into it extremely much. The Wilfred Nancy love affair might go into overdrive. The people who will be in the deepest hell are Montreal fans.
Yeah, well, I mean, aren't they already considering Joey Saputo let Wilfred Nancy go? I mean, that's the biggest thing.
Ultimately created an environment where Nancy was basically, no, I'm not doing this.
Yeah, it's a peace out. I mean, if I'm looking at things, it's like oh man, I'd be completely and totally frustrated if I was a Montreal fan right now. I really,
yeah.
I mean, because your owner chased away the guy who probably should be getting more attention for head coach, and that to me is part of the shtick in all of this. It's like all of those rude chances, RUED, not RUDE, but rude as in regretted. All of those regretted things that you end up with. Montreal coulda, woulda, shoulda. Do we have a head coach in Montreal yet? I don't think we do we?
I don't think we do.
Yeah, so
we know that they fired Hernan Losada after another 1-year stint, where now Hernan Losada is very much in the "it's not me, it's you" situation. That's how everybody is dealing with him,
yes,
as they should. And he just might not be built for this life in MLS, because that's two clubs now that have told him to kick rocks after 1 year.
Yeah, and I think that's the biggest thing in all of that. By the way, we have yet to discuss this morning why is Seattle allowed to take a number 10s from Lanús?
Because we did not. This is like, did you ever play the game King Oil as a kid? Okay. King Oil was a board game we had as a kid. I don't know why we had it. It had weird board games. I also played a lot of Parcheesi, like a lot of Parcheesi. King Oil was like, it was this board game with a board set elevated off of the platform, and you would take this little thermometer thing and put it in a hole, and if it went up, that meant there was oil, and then you would put your derrick on the oil. You claim it.
Yes.
We did not efficiently. Apparently, we did not efficiently claim Lanús.
Because
so,
the reason we say that is because Seattle is looking to add Lanús's current number 10, Pedro de la Vega, as a DP. 22-year-old youth international would fill the DP slot vacated by Nico Ladero, out of contract, set to leave Seattle this winter. 17 and 13 and 126 appearances for Lanús. 2019 U20 for Argentina, 2020 Summer Olympics. Thiago Brandao reported at first. Nothing done yet, but it's been in the works for a bit. Seattle has other finalists. So you would have De La Vega, Morris, Rui Diaz, Chu, and Roldan. They picked up the 24 option on Rusnak, who's often deployed as a 10. So that would be an interesting pickup for Seattle if that was to go down. Copa America, we've yet to kind of get into that. We got into it a little bit before Kevin came in, and I mentioned that everybody that might have heard something from inside the perimeter yesterday afternoon and might still hear a siren going off in the distance is Jason commenting in general about Argentina being the kickoff match for Copa America at Mercedes-Benz Stadium on the 20th of June.
Good luck getting tickets, everybody.
Yes, exactly. Good luck getting tickets. Absolutely good luck getting tickets. I don't know what, like I said, I don't know what the allocation allotment deal is, but, it's going to be, oh, boy. There might be more people outside than inside at this point, Just what I'm thinking. There might be more folks outside.
The Centennial Olympic Park is going to be a circus. That gap between that little green space between State Farm and the Benz is going to be a circus. The Home Depot tailgate will be a circus.
Okay.
Everything will be chaos, and it will be funny. And no, Tom, we haven't gotten to Almada yet. We'll get it in just a minute, though. Because
no,
I mean, we'll hit it. Yeah, you putting Argentina in the Benz. Still not sure they're going to play. I am hopeful, for the sheer sake of insanity, start the tournament with Argentina and Mexico.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, that would be that would be kind of cool. Filibuster for a second and talk about Thiago Almada. I'll come back.
So to Tom's point, okay, so I haven't seen. Almada was interviewed in Argentina yesterday and mentioned that he's ready to go to Europe now, like this window. Which, yeah, I mean, makes sense, and not in like a snarky way, but like I think it makes sense that he would want to do that right now. He's coming off of a season where he was the best young player in this league. He was number 3 in the MVP race, and he's only going to get better as a professional player. And now is the time to sell. The things you got to factor in, though, is Atlanta's going to want to make a tidy profit off of it. What kind of money do they get in that offer? And you talk to him and you say, hey, is this going to be the right fit? Because I think you look at a case, and it's not identical. You look at a case like a George Bello, who wanted to go play in Germany. And you had offers on the table from a number of places, including Germany. He took that offer, and it didn't work out. And now he's starting to find his legs again. Good on him. He's actually getting to play European games, so that's awesome. However, I think you factor in with Almada, you just make sure that he has the right people in his corner saying, hey, where we go is important. Not just that you get to Europe, but where you go into Europe for your own development and for your own success. Because I think we saw that with Miguel Almiron when he went to Newcastle. When Almiron went to Newcastle, it was a good fit initially. You get the managerial change, just felt like it was a bust, and now he's playing really well under Eddie Howe. I think it is important, though, for them to get the right fit for Almada, and that's going to be on his team, his representation. It's going to be Atlanta for making sure it's the right fit, and it's going to be on those teams for stepping up and putting forth the money, because herein lies the question, what is the dollar amount you put on him? He's very young. He's very, very, very good. What's the dollar amount you put on him before you decide, hey, well, yeah, we'll do this? Because if everyone comes in and lowballs you can't take, you can't take a lowball offer, especially below, obviously, or equal to what you paid for. You're looking to make a profit off of him. And I think he's improved enough to make a good profit and to go forward. I'd love to know what that dollar amount looks like. And yeah, if he goes, he goes. You make contingency plans. You've already started scouting, surely. And you bring in somebody else. Yes, it's funny to joke about. Seattle taking Lunus as number 10. But I'd be interested to see who they get. To Michael's point, Almada will take care of Almada. I'm more concerned with who we get to replace him.
And that's the thing.
Who do you get to replace him? And it feels like the tide has shifted.
That's what you do.
Well, it feels like the tide has shifted in the way that you shop right now.
Yeah.
So let's see. I mean, we'll just have to see who they decide to go and get, because it could go. You go with another younger player, or it feels like this offseason you're going to see some cleanup in the U23 side. I expect Sosa to be gone. And I hope he goes back to Argentina, and I hope he gets in a comfortable spot and he can thrive. I don't know that Ibarra stays here at this point. So you clean out some of those spots. You put yourself in a situation where you can go get a regular DP or a young DP, either one. Let's have to see who they get, but they've been hitting iron really well in the last calendar year. Jesus, the only thing I think we missed on was, the only thing that was a miss was Derek Etienne Jr. And then, ironically, that was the one I think everybody was super excited about.
Yeah.
Because he was an MLS veteran. He's good personality. I think he's a good fit for the clubhouse.
Yes.
Yeah, and that'd have been like that was the one where we were like, yeah, that's a great fit for depth. And it just hasn't worked, and now he's buried on the depth chart, ironically enough, and everything else, and you just got to roll with it. We'll have to see, man.
And that's the thing. That's the thing, when you do television, when you do TV in your home country, you're going to say those things. You're going to say what was said. And it's like, yeah, I want to go to Europe. Well, yeah, that's a big giant duh, yeah, you're going to say those things. It should not be a surprise. And any team worth their salt and any team that does their due diligence has known this ever since when? I mean, when did these discussions start? Summer?
Oh, I mean, I'm sure they're always going on because I mean, there were talks that teams were interested in him last summer.
Yeah. Okay.
Does he stay? Does he go? I don't know.
Yeah.
And to everybody's point, Tom and Michael talking about it, like, yeah, I mean, I don't blame him for wanting to go. He balled out in Argentina. He came to the United States with a ton of pressure on him into a weird situation. A team that was decimated with injuries last year finally got healthy this year and felt like it was really on the upswing at the end of the season. And he performed.
Yeah.
He should want that next step. I don't begrudge him at all. There are no hard feelings about him saying that.
None.
About him wanting to go to Europe. Hell yeah, man. Go.
Yeah.
Go and be free and make all of the money, especially, we talk about it all the time, like some of these dudes, some of these really young guys who grow up in really rough areas with a chance not just to make their own way in life, but to like get their extended family out.
Yeah.
Get family set for 2 generations down the road, man. Go get paid.
Yeah, absolutely. No, and what I think you're looking at, and I know that we've seen folks who are giving numbers and everything. I think what you're looking at is a number that's going to break the bank if you surrender all of the pass. For the full price, you don't get a piece of the action later on. You're going to set a Major League Soccer record. But at the same time, that may not be the only option. If somebody comes at you, as long as it's not Botafogo, if someone comes at as long as
make sure that whoever you sell to can actually pay you money.
Yes. So the shtick here is if you want to set the bar at say 35, then that's for 100% of everything. You're surrendering all future rights and contracts and everything for Thiago Almada, and you think that you'll take $35 million, cool. But if the number is commensurate to a percentage of the pass, say it's 25 and you get 30% of the pass, or 28, or something like that. So take a percentage and work down the chute and go, okay, so if it's 35 for 100, it's 30, and so 5 over 35 is 15%. So use that as a marker. Somewhere between $25 and $30 million, but you're still getting 20% of the pass. That means if you think that Thiago Almada is going to be a stud down the line and he's going to get, Jarrett, what was the word that you used?
What? Paid?
That, yes. That
yeah,
word.
Yeah, he will.
So if Thiago Almada was to continue to get 2 syllables worth of paid, take the percentage. If they want to give you 28 and 20% of the pass, or for 80% of the pass, then what you're doing down the line, for every subsequent contract, you'd be getting that percentage. So he will continue to make you money as long as he continues to play. And you're thinking probably 2 more contracts, if not 3, for Thiago Almada in his future. So you're banking against those 2 or 3 other contracts, and you're continuing to get money. So if there's a number, if you see a number that's like 25, 28 to 30, and there's still a percentage of the pass that's available, just extrapolate working your way backward.
I would also like to remind people that the EPL did just sign a new TV rights deal. So if you're, and I don't know how he would fit in the Premier League. I think he's tough.
Yeah.
But hey, man, they got a lot of stupid money to throw around, and they love making questionable decisions with that money because it's monopoly money for them.
Yes, and this is the domestic deal. This is not the U.S. deal that currently is held by NBC Peacock and all of those. This is the domestic deal, £6.7 billion with Sky and TNT. The number of live games is set to grow Match of the day to continue after the BBC buys the highlights rights. So this had been, this runs from 25-26, effectively keeping revenues stable. Sky has secured 4 of the 5 packages on sale, meaning a minimum of 215 live, all 10 fixtures on the final day of the season. So Sky gets decision day starting 25-26. TNT, which is basically old BT Sports, gets 52. Match of the day continues after BBC bought the rights to a weekly highlights package. For the first time, all matches outside the 10 a.m. window here domestically. So the 3 p.m. window in England. All matches outside the 10 a.m., the 3 p.m., 10 a.m. window broadcast live in the UK. So they still have that 3 p.m. blackout, which is the dumbest thing ever. But still, hey, you are who you are. Expansion of available content, extensions of the terms of the contract, enabled the Premier League to achieve what it calls, quote, the largest sports media rights deal ever concluded in the UK. Growth in annual revenue from domestic rights of just 4% below the current level of inflation. Deal is more than double the value of the agreement recently struck by Serie A. And that is also an issue coming up here domestically because Serie A and Paramount are in a bit of a row over the rights fee. So what does Serie A do? What does Paramount Plus do? Paramount Plus has done gangbusters with their Serie A coverage. Friend of the network, Poppy Miller, is a shining example of that. But the Serie A, it will be interesting, the negotiation with Paramount Plus. But now with this new deal domestically from 25-26, everything outside of that 10 a.m. window will now be broadcast on television in Britain. Congratulations. It's about time. You need to put your 10 a.m. games on as well because everybody's already in the stadia. You're already sold out. You're already at capacity. No one else can get in. You need to do that. So that's silly and dumb and, yeah, okay, great, whatever. But, yeah. So I don't know. I'm thinking maybe La Liga for Thiago Almada. That's just
as long as the check clears and as long as he's happy.
Yes, and that's the biggest thing. As long as the check clears and he's happy. So that's what you're looking at with Thiago. And I know that a lot of folks have been discussing fourth DP. We haven't heard anything about fourth DP yet. Official.
Yeah, we've heard rumors. But...
So it's kind of, sort of, yeah, probably, maybe, possibly, for sure going to happen sooner or later, probably, maybe. But, yeah, I mean, nothing yet. And then you've got to do something with the salary cap structure. You've got to.
As far as the question in the midfield goes, Ibarra or Hosetu, if you can get him back, I'd love to have Mateus Hosetu back on a lower number if he wants to come back. If you want to get really weird and if you get more money to play with, here's the question you ask yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's Miles or somebody else, if you get that fourth DP, you burn that fourth DP on a center back?
Yeah. I mean, that's the question.
Or would you burn that fourth DP? Would you TAM that spot?
I'd high TAM it.
And take that fourth DP on somebody in the center midfield. And then have Jay Fortune be the backup.
Yeah.
Because I think Jay Fortune has a very bright future.
Yes.
He's still rough around the edges. There is the orbital sander needs to be brought out for him.
Yeah.
To kind of sand down some of those splinters on the edges. And that's okay. He's a kid.
Okay.
He's still learning.
Okay. So,
and to Fourcart's point, DP for the CM or CDM.
Yeah.
And yeah, if you get that fourth DP spot, you're going to DP you're going to designate player the 10 if Almada's gone.
Yeah.
Do you also do it to that center midfield that you partner with Muyamba?
Yep. But see, and that's the thing. And I know that, and that's one of the other things to consider here is that Franco Ibarra and Mateus Hosetu are two different individuals. And what you have with their skill set in the midfield, and what you have found with Hosetu and Muyamba is that yin and yang that you need as a part of the three guard offense that I refer to in college basketball. And you've got your three guards, meaning your three midfielders, doing three different things. You've got you have your shooting guard, Thiago Almada. You have your point guard in Mateus Osechu, and you have your and really he's more like your point guard and defender. And then you have your other guard as Muyumba, who's not afraid to take a shot occasionally and be engage in the play. I think that if you bring in Ibarra, I think Ibarra means that you end up with more. You end up with two of more of the same, and you don't have three complementary pieces. You have two doing one thing and Thiago Almada, and you need that third complementary piece that can calm things down, help you out with passing, and let the others around that particular role be your home wrecker in the midfield when they're called upon.
And to Tom's point, I Dremel might do the job. I just have an orbital sander downstairs, so I was thinking I can just use that to take the to soften the edges a bit on him. But yeah, I think he just needs some seasoning, and you're gonna have to kind of sand it down a bit. But I think he is a very exciting prospect, and I mean, you've got more guys playing with the twos this year that are going to be exciting. I cannot emphasize enough that that Aiden Torres is potentially going to be a small little terror to deal with.
He's going to be a ball of hate, brother.
He is potentially a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Another guy too, because you're going to see a bunch of guys, I think, with the twos this year who are on first team deals, and even some on second team deals, like an Alan Carlton, who you're asking, hey, show me something, because I think Alan Carlton, first of all, just give the kid a jar of peanut butter.
Yes.
Put some weight on the boy.
Oh my goodness, please.
I'm begging you to put some weight on Alan Carlton, because he is ball playing 8, man. Like he can spray it around like nobody's business.
Yeah.
But you're asking, him to show you something this year.
Mm-hmm.
You are asking Luke Brennan, who's on a homegrown deal.
Yeah.
Like, hey man, that winger room is really damn busy. You're probably going to spend a lot of time up at the fraction. I need you to be an absolute terror in MLS Next Pro.
Mm-hmm.
I need you to play in a way that what Nick Saban said the other day after the SEC title game, when it comes to quarterbacks, he said, force us to play you.
Yeah.
That's how he picks his quarterbacks. He tells them, I need you to play so well that you force us to put you into the game.
Yeah.
And that's what you do with Luke Brennan. You're asking those guys, force us to bring you and play you up on the first team.
Nicholas Firmino, I'm looking forward to that one too.
Mm-hmm. Well, Nicholas Firmino is such a fun little ball of weaponized chaos that you have now, because let's say Almada is here through January, or even if he's not here, and you go get a designated player number 10.
Yeah.
You have like a weird number 10 coming off the bench in Firmino, who can do like 5 different things at once.
Mm-hmm.
Who's not the same kind of player, but who can just really unbalance a game.
Yeah.
In spot starts or late in games. And I think Nicholas Firmino could make hay in those situations. And just depends on how you feel like you need to use him. Another one to keep an eye on, I will say, is, and I wasn't sure he was going to be big enough or strong enough. Mm-hmm. But he showed me something last year, was Johnny Vial.
Yeah.
Johnny Vial is still undersized. Johnny Vial has turned into a pit bull.
Yeah.
And I think it's because he got his teeth knocked in repeatedly in USL. It gets tough now. And he's still short. He's stocky though. But he's going to be that same boat of show me something with the twos this year.
Yeah.
About either with a twos deal or, potentially being on that homegrown track. If he can show you something and if he can stay tough, I think he's got to be part of that conversation.
Yeah. No, it's going to be, and we will go ahead and say it right now, that the twos are going to be fun. And
don't know if they'll win like a title. Don't know how much they'll win. Yeah. It should be fun though. I think there'll be a lot of really skillful players on that field.
Yep, and which reminds me, coming up later this afternoon, you'll have a conversation. That's after lunch. I got to do some editing. Caught up with a couple of folks up at Hunt City, And Liam Doyle from Soccer Ops and Chad Emerson on the business side, they had their introduction to 2024. They made some player announcements yesterday, Asad Liadi, among others, coming back for the 24 season. So we caught up with Liam Doyle and Chad Emerson to get the lay of the land in Huntsville, and that'll be up on the network later this afternoon. And the Blast-Off series in mid-February. Spend your Valentine's Day in Huntsville and watch 2 days of double headers, the 14th and the 16th, I believe, in February, where it is Chattanooga FC, FC Tulsa, Tormenta, and Hunt City all in one place, playing each other in the Blast-Off in 2024 up in Huntsville, where they actually at Joe Davis actually do have a rocket on site. I don't know if it works, but they actually have a rocket at Joe Davis.
Will absolutely commission somebody to petition somebody to build that. Here, he built it himself.
Yes.
He and I discussed why he doesn't have a small rocket underneath the stadium. And he had mentioned before that stadiums are meant to not move, and the things he built are meant to move very quickly. So I like to think that they built a rocket underneath the stadium.
Oh, that would be fantastic if that in fact did happen. Other things going on this morning, and I've got to find the article, and it's in the. It is something that is near and dear to our friend Jessica Charman, and it appears once again that Reading is having issues. You know, you thought that there was the possibility of, maybe an owner, maybe you get an owner and you can sit there and it's like, all right, maybe. It looks like when that one's on life support now too. After getting bumped out by non-league Eastleigh in the second round of the FA Cup, it now appears that you might end up with another ownership issue when it comes to Reading. And it came out this morning, and I'm trying to find which source it was that told me that this was the case. And I can't remember if it was the Telegraph or the Guardian. So I'm feverishly searching for that particular, here we go. It was the Telegraph. The hedge fund that had been negotiating to buy Reading could walk away after the owner has made significant new demands. This came out last night. There have been no secrets, and we've had Jessica on the show to discuss the hashtag Sell Before We Die, DAI. Dai Yong is the owner of Reading FC, and we say that because he is the owner in name only. Dude doesn't want to invest anymore, doesn't want to have anything to do with it. He's not paying folks on time, and there have been several point deductions that have occurred, and Reading right now is having problems because they have had a point deduction this season already. And if they continue not to pay bills, they will continue to get point deductions. Their next match is this weekend, and they are up against Barnsley at home. And I think Jess is still at home to watch these. Right now, Reading is they've had a decent start. I mean, they would be out of the relegation fight. They'd be 17th. They'd be out of the relegation spot by a handful of points. But at 5-2-11, they are. Right now they'd be right on the edge of the relegation zone. They've had 4-point deduction this season. They're in the relegation zone right now at 5-2-11 and 13 points. They are 5 points from safety. But as of last night, John Percy at the Telegraph says that Dai Yong is set to come under further scrutiny after it emerged Ginevra Associates are considering the withdrawal of their takeover bid. The European-based hedge fund have been in advanced talks over a potential deal, now ready to pull out as negotiations have stalled. Young has allegedly made a number of significant changes to the final terms of sale. Last week, Ginevra were hopeful of being granted exclusivity, but it is believed Young's latest demands have delayed the process. Ginevra declined comment yesterday, and the EFL board is set to hold their monthly meeting later this week with the crisis at Reading being under discussion. They've been docked 16 points in 3 seasons under Young's ownership. They're currently in the League One relegation zone. Mark Bowen, the head of football ops, interviewed by ITV before the match, where they got bumped out of FA Cup, confirmed he'd foregone his wages. Your head of football operations has foregone his wages to try to help make ends meet because the owner is a piece of ish. There was not enough funding coming into the club this month to pay everybody in full, quoting Bowen. The chief exec made the decision to pay the players to stop us from getting another points deduction, and there was a percentage paid to the rest of the staff. Myself, Ruben Sellas, the manager, decided we would forfeit all of our wages until the staff are paid in full. We are told that the funds will arrive and everything will be sorted by early next week. We've heard this song and dance like 98 times. 98 times. And I have had, we've had Jess on as a part of all this. And at the same time, when we can, we will probably end up having Jess on because I think she is still back home. And I think she's probably going to go watch the match this weekend. So it sucks. And right now, Reading with their owner, they're on life support, and it's awful. Mines wants to know if we could look at the Copa America pots and give the best case scenario for USA and Canada. Well, we know that the Copa has the U.S. in C. They're going to be in Group C. They're the number one in Group C. And Canada will be a part of this discussion as well. Right now, Group A, Argentina. We know they're there. Group B, it's Canada. Group C, it's the U.S. And Group D is Brazil. So, when we get to the draw, December 7th. So tonight's the 5th. Tuesday's the 5th. So Thursday night at 7:30. Here's your pots. Here's your pots and how they break out. Argentina, Mexico, USA, Brazil. We know that they're going to be in each group. Pot 2, Uruguay, Colombia, Ecuador, Peru. I think that looking at CONMEBOL and the standings there, let me see if we can find. Okay, so since nothing is active, let me see if I can find the current CONMEBOL standings. All right, so we're going to workshop this bad boy. So we'll see what we can come up with here. CONMEBOL standings and table. So right now, you're looking for the teams at the bottom. So if you're looking for a way out, if you are the U.S. and Canada, what you want is something like Paraguay, Chile, Bolivia, Peru. You want Peru in your group out of pot 2. You want that. You want Peru out of pot 2. You want Paraguay out of pot 3, maybe. You want pot 3. You want Chile. Chile. You want Chile out of pot 3 at 1, 2, and 3 right now. And then out of pot number 4, you want Bolivia. CONCACAF's 5 and 6. Those will be decided in March up at Jerry World. But you're looking at Bolivia because you don't want Jamaica. I don't think you want Jamaica as a part of your pot. Jamaica, Bolivia, and then the 2 CONCACAF teams, 5 and 6. So you want some combination of Peru, Bolivia, Chile, Paraguay. Those are the 4 teams below 500 right now in CONMEBOL. So if you are making your grid, Paraguay, Chile, Bolivia, Peru. So you want Peru out of pot 2, Chile or Paraguay out of pot 3, and Bolivia out of pot 4. That's what you're looking for. If you're looking for any kind of advancement, tell you what, let me do a combination of things. So here is public service. I know, mind you're trying to what I was doing. Oh, worst case scenario. Okay, well here's your pot breakdown. That's from our friends at Fox Soccer. So that's the pot breakdown. Worst case scenario. Yeah, and as a Canadian fan, yeah, and that's pot 4 if they qualify. Yes. So what you're staring at from the teams that you don't want. You can't have Argentina because they're in the head of a group. So what you don't want is probably the top half of the table, Uruguay, Colombia, you don't want. So I would say Uruguay and Colombia, they're both in pot 2. So odds are you're going to get one of those. Canada and, whoever's pot 2 and pot 3 with the U.S., odds are you're going to get Uruguay or Colombia. You're going to get one of those in your pot. So what you don't want is Uruguay in your pot. You don't want Uruguay. And then, wow. Okay, so let's see. You don't want maybe Venezuela, but Venezuela, right now they're fourth. They're fourth in CONMEBOL right now. Ecuador's got a better record. So Uruguay, Colombia, Ecuador, odds are you're going to get one of those. They're all in pot 2. 3 teams are going to get them. You're going to get one of those. Unless you really luck out and get Peru out of pot 2, you're going to get Uruguay, Colombia, or Ecuador. So then what you don't want is Uruguay. You do not want Uruguay out of pot number 2. You do not. Do not. So then pot 3, Venezuela maybe you don't want. And then pot 4 for me is everybody in CONCACAF working their way in and Jamaica because they're going to have Andre Blake in net. So I would rather, if for Canada, you want to play Mexico. No, because Mexico right now, they're still in transition. They're still painful to watch. They're just, you want Mexico. You want Mexico in your group. You want Mexico. Jarrett returns.
He does.
So yeah, mine's is a Canadian, a fan of the Canadian national team, and we were kind of workshopping who you want and who you don't want when it comes to your pots. And 3 of the teams in pot 2 in the Copa, Uruguay, Colombia, Ecuador, you're going to get one of those. You are. And so you're going to get one of the top 4 teams in CONMEBOL in pot number, out of pot number 2 in your group. So you just have to deal with it. That's there. Pot 3, we were going through it all and trying to sit here and say, who do you not want? And so it might be Venezuela, who is right now top half in CONMEBOL. They're 2-3-1 right now. They're 4th. And then in the 4th pot, who you don't want, any of the 2 CONCACAFers that survived Jerry World and Jamaica because of Andre Blake in net. So pot 4 could be all kinds of danger if you're not careful. All kinds of danger if you're not careful. But I want Mexico. Any chance I get, I want Mexico because I want to play Mexico because right now they're in a world of hurt and they're still in transition. So any chance
I still want Mexico and Argentina in that first game because it's going to be
oh
my God, it's going to be broken bottle street fight, Warriors come out to play.
Oh, that'd be fantastic. That'd be great television.
And you know what would be an amazing part of that?
What? All of it?
We have Argentina, Mexico. Argentina's up 2-0 in the 73rd minute. And we cut up into the suites. Sitting up there in a suite is Tata Martino. Drinking mate.
Yeah.
Just visiting.
Yeah.
Just having a good time.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Just laughing and having a good old time.
He's kicking it.
As Mexico gives up another goal.
Yes, absolutely. Here's your viewing habits today. Lazio Genoa's at 3 on CBS Sports Network and the Copa Italia. True TV tonight has the USA China friendly at 8. Wolves and Burnley's at 2:30 on USA. And Peacock has Luton Town and Arsenal at 3:15. They also have the simulcast for USA and China. Universo is simulcasting the women's friendly from USA and China at 8. The DFB Pokal is on the Plus at noon, doubleheader at noon, doubleheader at 2:30. Copa del Rey is also on the Plus. One match at 1, 2 at 3. Max also has coverage of the women's friendly at 8 o'clock, Paramount Plus. 2 more matches have just started in the Asian Champions League and involving Persepolis and Al Dahail and Istiklal and Al Nasser. So those are on Paramount Plus, as well as the Copa Italia at 3. YouTube earlier this morning had the Portuguese Soccer Federation hosting the UEFA Development Tournament. USA's U15s beat Scotland's U15s by the final of 2-1. So that's your rundown of what to watch today.
Stop ruining my dreams 4-card.
What's 4-card talking about now?
So it won't happen.
Maybe in the round of 8.
It's just shattering my dreams.
Yes.
He wants me to be sad.
Yes.
That's okay.
Yes. And yes, mine's Mexican fans are crazy. They will travel, but
they don't have to travel far. There's a lot of them here.
Yes. Yeah.
It's not a long trip, man.
Yeah. So wherever
they pack the bins out on the daily if they want, if they had to.
Absolutely true. Once again, thanks to Kevin Egan. We'll try and reschedule Glenn Davis for another day because he is one of the busiest men in show business. But it was great to catch up with Kevin Egan and Kevin Patrick in front of the Egan family Christmas tree. And we'll be back at it again tomorrow morning at 9:05, where hopefully Dylan Butler can discuss what happened in his state championships, anything else going on in his mind, and we will take you through the rest of the day and see what other kind of trouble we can get into at 9:05. And thanks for hanging out with us here on the SDH Network. You can grab us a bunch of different places, including the SDH app available iOS and Android. Jarrett, the fourth, has held up the light board, and we have exceeded our time on the Hublot red and green light display. So if you would, please, sir, send us home.
Mucho platio.
What he said. Back at it again, 9:05 tomorrow morning. Play it safe, everybody.